share screen. on WebEx right now. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 10:02 a.m. And our first piece of business is to review and approve the minutes of March 16th. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Move approval.
Second?
I second.
Thank you. Any questions, changes, comments? Hearing none. Are the minutes accepted? Please say yes or no.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay. I would like to welcome Matt Hart right now. He's on WebEx, and Sherry Cantor is going to join us around 10:15. So while we're waiting to get started with that, Karen, do you mind starting for us this morning with the social services report?
I don't mind at all. Thank you.
Thank you.
My report, excuse me. Yes, my report is brief today. The biggest change in our department and everybody here really is that our staff is back in the office full time. We're still taking a lot of precautions and we still wear masks, et cetera, social distancing, and the public can come in by appointment only still. But we're moving in a positive direction, which is great. And we are actively looking to fill a part-time and a full-time position. So we're quite busy. The food pantry remains very active, still serving, I think it's about double the number of families and bags as compared to before the pandemic. And the volunteer program with the people coming back to town hall, the volunteer program is also looking to save ways to reinstate some of their programs that have been temporarily suspended, like the medical escort program. So you'll be hearing more about that hopefully in the near future. Dial-A-Ride and Greater Hartford Transit District continue to operate with the same safety guidelines. The Dial-A-Ride application period the new renewal is coming up. It runs July to July, but if anybody wants to apply now, there is a prorated fee. The Energy Assistance Program we still have a CRT worker in our office, but they will continue to operate by phone and remotely. No in-person appointments for them. And there's still a lot of programs out there for help with utilities. So if anybody has any concerns, please call us. It's changing all the time. So encourage people to call us if they have any questions. And the application period for energy assistance has been extended into June. So typically it ends April 30th, but they've extended it into June, including for the oil program. So that's great. Renters rebate started April 1st, and we've already received more than 200 applications back. So we're going to continue that program with a mail-in method as well. And I think, as I reported last month, the governor extended the eviction moratorium, and the federal government did as well through September. It's not an automatic process. There's still forms to be filled out, but also, fortunately, I think since the last time we met, there's been a lot of funds put into a new program to help people with rent and utilities that were affected by COVID. It's called Unite CT. So if anybody has any questions about that, please let us know. The process is supposed to be, they're trying to make it as accessible as possible to people. It's supposed to be very easy. And so we're hoping that many of our residents can take advantage of it. Does anybody have any questions? Helen?
It's my understanding too that Unite CT is planning to do some mobile, rollout of opportunities for people to register for this very deep program like through a mobile van that would go into different neighborhoods so that people could go to the van and fill out the application form. Is that, have you heard about
Correct.
that?
Yeah, since it's all online, the application, there's no paper application. Part of their program is to provide a van that will come to your neighborhood with computers. So people that don't have access to internet or cell phones or computers can apply. So we're working to coordinate with some of the sites in town to bring that mobile van to West Hartford to facilitate that.
Hi, Karen. This is Noreen Bachteller.
Hi,
On the
Noreen.
Dial-A-Ride, hi. On the
Yes.
Dial-A-Ride, is the fee the same? Is that 50 or what's the fee? And who's is the current provider for the Dial-A-Ride?
The current provider is oh my gosh, Helen, help me out. I'm drawing a mental blank.
It's going to stay the same.
It's going to stay the same. Yeah, it's going to stay the same. It's going to be $50. The
Okay.
only difference is if somebody is new to Dial-A-Ride and wants to apply now before the July renewal, they can get it now for a reduced rate of $35, and then they would renew in July for the full fee of $50.
But if they did the 35, it would only be till July of 21, right?
Correct.
Right. And are you still offering it to the congregate facilities, the St. James Court and the Canterbury?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Are there any other questions for Karen? Okay, thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Sheila is here today from the Seniors Job Bank. Can you do your report now, Sheila?
Sure. You can't miss me in this bright pink. I have to tell you, I didn't realize how how glaringly pink this is going to be when I got dressed. But
It's a
anyway,
breath of spring.
okay. Well, that's what I was thinking when I was looking at my wardrobe. But anyway, good morning, everybody. Happy to see you all. So this is an incredibly busy time for the Seniors Job Bank. I mean, it sounds funny, but we do have a busy season, and it is the spring. So we just had our annual meeting, and we added 3 new board members. They are all people of color, which I'm happy to say, which will actually just we have a fairly diverse board, but it will make it even more diverse. And we are making an effort to reach out to communities that don't really, communities that don't think of the Seniors Job Bank or don't know of us. And so that's, I think, a step in the right direction for us. We are working on revamping our database and all of our computer systems, and we're about to hire a consultant to assist with that. And that will be a really big game changer for us. And in addition to that, this is where we see a huge uptick in requests for help. Gardening requests and businesses. The last 2-3 weeks, we've gotten a lot of requests from businesses, doctors' offices. We just placed somebody with Beth David Synagogue, an office manager, couriers. We're seeing lots of requests, which is really, really, a good sign that the economy is coming back to life. However, having said that, I think I'm seeing a wider gap than usual in the skills that employers are looking for and how much they're willing to pay. And then the job seekers. For instance, we just got a job for an office manager where they are looking for somebody. This is $15 to $20 an hour. They want the person to have excellent customer skills, computer skills, be able to repair items, clean the offices, social media skills. And then they said graphic artist skills are a plus. I mean, there's almost nothing they don't want this person to do for $15 to $20 an hour. And that's what I'm seeing a little more frequently than we have in the past. So it's challenging. It's challenging to find people who can do all those things and who are willing to do that for $15 to $20 an hour. And I'm sure no surprise to anybody here, manufacturers, we still struggle to fill manufacturers' jobs. And I've gotten requests from a local manufacturer, you know, paying $14 an hour to work on the assembly line. And we struggle to find people who want to do those kinds of things. So the good news is there are jobs available. They are, you know, they are around, and we're seeing many more of them. But it is a challenge to always, you know, find the right fit. And I think that's it for me. If anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Sheila. And I see that the mayor is with us and the town manager are with us. So who's going first?
Hi, nice to see you all. I'm sorry I was a couple minutes late. Matt actually has a presentation, and I think we'll start with that, and we'll open up for questions and discussion.
Thank you, Sherry.
All right, thank you very much, Mayor. It's great, Matt Hart, Town Manager here. It's great to see everyone online. I hope you are doing well. Amy, I want to congratulate you on your appointment as chair, and thank you for taking on this role.
Thank you.
I do have a PowerPoint presentation that I'd like to share. I'd like to move through it rather quickly so that I can, so that the mayor and I can take your questions. So let me bring that up right now. And what I'm sharing with you is the proposed budget that the superintendent of schools and I presented to our respective boards. I presented it to the town council, superintendent presented it to the Board of Education. The Board of Education has already made some suggested amendments to this. But the town council is reviewing it now, and the town council just last week decided to extend the budget process a little bit at our recommendation in order to give them time to look at incorporating some of the new federal monies under the American Rescue Plan Act that will be coming our way. So the budget that I'm presenting to you now is likely going to change, at least in some fashion. And I'll elaborate on that a little bit more as we move along. Probably everyone knows on the line that Connecticut, we have a uniform fiscal year for all municipalities and the state. And our fiscal year here in Connecticut runs from July 1st through June 30th. So this is the fiscal year 21-22, our fiscal year 22 proposed budget. And also each year we prepare a capital improvement program, and that funds our major projects in facilities, acquisitions of equipment, etc. We prepare a 12-year plan, but really the funding is fixed for only the first 2 years of the plan. So in my presentation, I'm only going to focus on those first 2 years of the capital plan. Again, I will move through this rather quickly. I did send this out to Amy. When she gets a chance, she can share it with all of you. I'll move through it as quick as I can, and then we can take your questions. All right. So in terms of putting the budget together, one thing I discussed with the town council is how do we view the budget as a tool for our recovery from the pandemic? You know, we can certainly view it in that light. And we all know that we're fortunate here in West Hartford in many ways. We are considered as one of the nation's premier communities. And a lot of that is due, not all of it, but a lot of it is due to the programs and services that we provide, both the town and the school district. So things like education, public health, we've seen how important has public health been this past year. Public safety, police and fire, public works and facilities, taking care of our roads, our buildings, other infrastructure. And then certainly everything that I would label as more community services, whether that's the library, leisure services, social services, what have you. All of those services combined are important to our quality of life and important to maintaining our community. Similarly, our capital improvement program. The town, we own a very, very significant portfolio of buildings and roads, sidewalks, stormwater pipes, you name it. It is pretty extensive. Over 2.2 million square feet of buildings alone between the town and the schools. We have all of our parks and recreational facilities. We have our bridges. So it's important to take care of all of these things. And since West Hartford's been around for a little while, a lot of that infrastructure is dated, you know, and arguably takes a little bit more money to maintain. So it's important, and this is something the council has been doing for a long, long time, to make investments in that infrastructure. So hopefully you can see this slide okay. This is a summary of the proposed budget. All right, and I'm just going to hit the highlights. So what I have on the top of the page here, these are the revenues that would fund the operating budget. And on the lower half of the page, I have a summary of expenditures. And I am comparing the adopted budget for the current year we're in, and we're currently in fiscal year 21, which will end on June 30th. I'm comparing that to the proposed budget for next fiscal year, which would begin on July 1st. So as you can see, the budget as presented overall would increase 2.79%, 2.79%. That's a lower figure, particularly when looking at the past decade or so. You know, we are mindful of the impact that the pandemic has had on certain businesses, on other members of our community. You know, people have lost employment, people have had to close businesses, etc. Some people have done well, some people have not done so well. So we're just trying to strike the right balance here. So overall, both revenues and your expenditures, they need to match. They would increase by 2.79%. And just to focus on a few lines on the expenditure side, the town budget, the town side of the budget would increase by roughly 3.3 million. It would go from 112.8 million, we have a big budget, to 116.2 million roughly, an increase of 2.95%. The Board of Education would increase from roughly 170 million to 176.3 million, about 6.2 million, an increase of 3.66%. This is what the superintendent had proposed. The Board of Ed has already lowered that number somewhat. On the capital financing piece for that capital improvement program, we would actually see a decrease in spending next year of about 1.2 million, a decrease of 6.87%. So our overall budget would increase from roughly $300.2 million to $308.6 million. We are we're a large town by Connecticut standards. We're a good sized town by Connecticut standards, and we have our budget is bigger than many of our smaller neighbors because of that. So these are just the things I just touched on. Again, a 2.79% increase in overall expenditures. Here's how it breaks down between the town, the school district, and capital financing. This would require what we're recommending, and we expect the council is going to modify this, a uniform mill rate of 43.16 mils, 43.16 mils. So the mill rate would increase from its current level of 41.8 to 43.16. That would be an increase of 1.36 mils or 3.25%. So you may ask me why, if the budget's only going up by 2.79%, why would taxes increase by 3.25? And that has to do largely with the fact that we utilized some one-time revenues in the current year, which we are not proposing to use next year. So quick overview of on the revenue side. As is true in almost every town in Connecticut, with the exception of our bigger cities and a couple of other small towns, property taxes would provide the bulk of our revenues. So here in Connecticut, local governments, we do not have the ability to levy a local sales tax. We do not have the ability to levy a local income tax, occupancy taxes, utility taxes, what have you. We do not have that ability. Other states, local governments do have that ability, and that is why, in many reasons, their property taxes are lower. But here in Connecticut, property taxes are the main vehicle at the local level, in addition to some monies coming from the state. So you see property taxes would make up 88% of the revenues. The next highest category would be money coming from the state or the federal government at 8%. And this is pretty consistent with what you would see in many towns in Connecticut. Our grand list, that is the list of all of the taxable property in town. You know, real estate, personal property, motor vehicles. The number is almost $6.4 billion. Sizable grand list. We did see something of an increase this last year. It increased by 0.44%, almost 0.5%. And you can see how it breaks down here between real estate, personal property, and motor vehicles. In terms of our grand list growth over the last decade or so, you know, this figure is a little bit lower, but, you know, not that far off since looking back to 2012. The 1% figure, which, you know, we always like to be able to hit, we've only reached that 4 times since 2000 in the last 20 years. And I'm just talking about non-revaluation years. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit into the weeds. Let me move on. State aid, I talked about, is a very important revenue source for us. What we are anticipating, we took the governor's numbers. We also included some additional payment in lieu of taxes funding that has been proposed. And that would total almost $25.4 million. We did not include roughly $2 million in federal relief funds coming directly to the schools because they're not supposed to be used to supplement operating expenses. Here's how state aid has fluctuated in recent years. You see there's been some fluctuation. The high water mark at $26.4 million back in 2017. We saw, you know, a marked decrease in 2018, and then a little bit of a recovery since that time. And again, what we're assuming for next year would be $25.4 million. Now let's talk a little bit about the American Rescue Plan, which, you know, the Congress passed and the president signed. Very exciting for municipalities across the entire country because a significant component of the funding would go to provide direct relief to local governments. And in West Hartford, because we're what's called an entitlement community with a population of 50,000 or more people, that money would be coming directly to us as opposed to flowing through the state. So there's been only some very cursory guidance issued to date in terms of what we can use this money for. And we're expecting the rules to be issued by the federal government on or before, hopefully before, May 10th. So we're waiting on the receipt of those rules so we learn more about how we can utilize this money. But they're supposed to be used to respond to the public health emergency, for the provision of services that have been impacted by lost revenue. It also can be used for certain investments in certain types of infrastructure, such as water, sewer, or broadband. Importantly, it cannot be used to shore up a pension fund or to offset a tax cut. So again, waiting on the use of this money, because it's a significant sum for West Hartford, almost 25 million on the town side, and about 10.3 million for the school district. And we will have until the end of calendar year 2024, until December 31st of 2024, to spend this money. And the council wants to make sure, and we want to make sure at a management level here, that we're using it in a way that's going to benefit the community the most long term. We want to spend it wisely. Taking a quick look at expenditures, the bulk of the funding would go through our to the school district, our pre-K through 12 system. That is true. That is true in most towns and cities in the state of Connecticut, where the bulk of the money goes to public education. In some small towns, it will be as high as 80 to 85% of the budget goes to education. Here, it's closer to 50-50. You know, you see 57% going to the school district. That's been a very consistent number in recent years. 38% to the town and 5% for that capital improvement program. Here's another quick look at how it breaks down in a little bit more detail. Again, most of the money going to education. And then we have this non-departmental category. You know, this has grown somewhat in recent years and includes employee benefits. It includes our contribution to the MDC for wastewater or sewer service. Public safety at 10% of the budget. Capital financing 6%. Public works at 4%. All the other departments, including community services, library, leisure, and social services, less than 6%. Less than 6% of the operating budget. What's driving the increase on the town side? Why are we seeing this increase of 3.3 million? Here are the main reasons, and a lot of these are fixed or semi-fixed. You know, we don't have a lot of discretion here. Certain contracts we have for parts management and other things, we're seeing an increase there. Temporary payroll. Last year, when the pandemic hit, we laid off roughly 130 part-time employees, many of them, if not most of them, in leisure services. We have been able to bring many of them back, fortunately, and now as we've made more progress with vaccinations and some of the restrictions has lifted, leisure services, the library, etc., we're planning to come back in a big way and restore the services that we had provided before, but we're going to need to bring back a lot of those part-time employees. So we would see an increase in temporary payroll for that purpose. Solid waste and recycling. That's a big issue in the state of Connecticut right now. Those costs have increased very significantly over the last 5 years. And we are looking at a significant increase, at least on a percentage basis for next year. Our cost to get rid of the bulk of our garbage is going to increase by roughly 22%. We don't have a lot of options there. Risk management, that's our insurances. We're seeing an increase there. A contribution to our capital plan, which I'll talk about, of $485,000. We do have a couple of unsettled contracts with our employees. The council did just settle one with the police, which is great news. We've got stability there. We'll hope to bring another one to the council soon. We've got an increase in the pension for town employees of about 1.1 million. However, you know, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but a couple months ago, the town council approved a plan and want to give the mayor kudos for initially coming up with the idea. This will be the last year where we're going to see a significant increase in our contribution to the pension, because we're going to be financing our pension through another means, which we expect will lower that liability on a very, very significant basis for the town moving forward. But we are going to see that increase one more time next year. There are a number of offsets that we incorporated into the budget. For example, we left 13 positions vacant, including some positions we really need, you know, and those total approximately $1 million. The MDC, interestingly, we're going to see a decrease next year. And then we're using what we call bond premium to help offset these increases too. So that's a very quick snapshot of the operating budget. Moving on to talk about the capital improvement program. Again, we prepare a 12-year plan. I'm going to focus on the first 2 years of the plan because that's where the funding is more fixed. What do we use the capital improvement program for again? We use it to maintain our infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, our sidewalks, our culverts, our stormwater lines, as well as our town buildings, our parks. We also use the funding for the acquisition of large pieces of equipment, whether it's including some smaller ones too, whether it's a big fire truck, you know, a piece of apparatus, or a plow truck. You know, those are all funded through the capital improvement program. And most of the funding comes through the issuance of debt. And the most common tool, I'm sure you've heard the term municipal bonds. The most common tool are general obligation bonds. And those are tax exempt. And those are a very common tool utilized by municipalities. Here in West Hartford, we have the best bond rating that you can attain. It's a AAA bond rating. Why is that important? The better the bond rating, the lower the interest rate you pay on the bonds, which saves money for the taxpayers. So looking at the proposed capital budget for the next 2 years of about $57.8 million. Most of it would come from the issuance of those municipal bonds I just talked about. A much smaller amount from what we call the capital non-recurring expenditure fund. Grants can make up a sizable portion, especially if we look to incorporate some of that American Rescue Plan money here. On the expenditure side, how does it break down? Most of the money goes to transportation and infrastructure, our roads, bridges, etc. A fair amount also goes to maintaining our school buildings and facilities. Parks and recreation, a smaller category. Town buildings, a larger category. Government operations, this is primarily computers and that type of hardware. And then rolling stock includes those big pieces of equipment I talked about. Fire truck, plow truck, what have you. Here's an example of some of the projects in the first 2 years of the plan. So under transportation and circulation, we need to replace the Fern Street Bridge. And this is the one that is closest to Fern Ridge Park. I think that bridge goes back to roughly 1940 or so. We will be receiving some grant funding to cover much of that cost. Road and street resurfacing, you know, that's something we need to do each and every year. 4.2 million roughly for that. Stormwater management, that's an emerging issue in town that you may be familiar with. Some of you may experience it at your own homes. The town is going to be making a more sizable investment there in the years to come. So we're programming $3.1 million there. On the education side, various improvements to the outside of our schools as well as the interior of our schools. Unfortunately, over the last 2 decades now, particularly in the last decade, schools across the country have had to invest much more money to improve school security, you know, due to increases in gun violence and for other reasons. You know, we could have a whole separate conversation on that, but that is something we've had to do. We've had to what's called harden our facilities through those security improvements. Elementary school air quality, this would be to install primarily HVAC units in 9 of our 11 elementary schools. On the town side, we need to replace our very outdated animal shelter. If you're familiar with it, it's located down near Public Works on Brixton Street. It goes back decades. It's no longer really consistent with current practice. So we need to replace that. That's a cost of roughly $700,000. And then the other item that I'm excited to talk to you about today is the town council has agreed to, at least in a preliminary fashion, acquire the former St. Brigid School on Mayflower Street. And we have programmed $3 million for the purchase price in the first year of the plan. We have also put in another $3 million into the second year of the plan that could be used to make some temporary upgrades to the facility, to handle any remediation that might be required, maybe even demolition if needed. Amy, I'm guessing you're going to want me to talk about the St. Brigid project separately, so I won't get into it in too much detail here. Just to say it's something we're very excited about.
Thank you, Matt. Yes.
Okay. The 12-year plan. The 12-year plan, very significant at $331.2 million. Most of the money coming from municipal bonds, as I said, a fair amount coming from federal and state grants. And this is before the American Rescue Plan Act was announced. So this number may change. It will likely increase, I would imagine, as well as some of the other categories here. And here's the expenditure side. Most of the money, 42% going to transportation and related infrastructure, 36% going to the schools, and you see how the other categories break down. Our capital non-recurring fund, expenditure fund, this is a much smaller component of the capital budget. I presented a pretty bare bones what's called CNRE fund budget for next year, primarily for public safety equipment, body cameras for our police, which are required now pursuant to state law. It's also something the council's wanted to do, as well as some miscellaneous equipment for our fire department. We do have other needs, but in an effort to mitigate the increase in the tax rate, we presented a very, very lean CNRE budget for next year. And this may change as well with the American Rescue Plan Act. So now let's talk about the impact on the taxpayer, which I'm sure you're all interested in and we'll have questions about. Again, it's an overall percentage change of 3.25%. I do expect that to change. I expect that number to come down. The mayor can talk about that in a couple of minutes. But every year we do this hypothetical exercise where we look at the impact on the average home here in West Hartford. The average home right now with an assessed value of about $227,000, a little bit more than that. And this hypothetical property owner also has two vehicles assessed at almost $11,000 each. So this taxpayer would see an increase of roughly $339 next fiscal year under what's proposed. Again, I expect those numbers to be changed and to come down somewhat. And this is a quick snapshot of the budget adoption process, which has now been modified. The town council was originally planning to adopt its proposed budget later this week, but has now decided to extend the process by at least another month so that we can take a look at the rules regarding the use of the American Rescue Plan Act and how we might be able to utilize at least some of those monies for the budget for next year. Let me pause there, Amy, and ask the mayor to add any comments she might have. Then we can open it up for Q&A.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. And I think, Matt, that's a really good overview of a lot of the things that we have to take into account when we're forming our budgets. We don't have as much flexibility as we would like to have. Connecticut, as Matt said, I think he says often, I'm not sure he said it today to you, but Connecticut is extremely reliant on property taxes. We structurally have fund almost everything out of property taxes. And as he did say, we don't have the diversity that other states have. This is it. So, and you know, it defines who we are as a community, and it defines what we're able to do. And some of the things that those line items that we've really have been driving our budget, we've identified them, with the largest being our pensions. Not only have we negotiated changes, but we have our past service costs, which are things we can't negotiate out of. We have established this alternative funding mechanism. It's pension obligations bonds with a twist. And I will say we are doing this in a way that is very conservative, a lot of conservative assumptions, and with a reserve. And so we think we're positioning ourselves at least to stabilize that cost, which has been a big driver. I just really want to emphasize that last year we froze our budget. We did not have any taxes. That doesn't mean that our expenses didn't go up. We had contractual obligations. We had added costs to meet the needs of the community for the pandemic. We still had to plow for, snow removal and all the kinds of things that we still need to do. We did also have revenue drops from the pandemic. The American Rescue Plan will allow us to meet some of those challenges, but we are coming off of a zero. Which we don't normally do, we took $1.5 million out of our fund balance, which is important for us to maintain our AAA bond rating as a contingency if we needed it during this very unknown year when we adopted our budget in May after really, not knowing what this year would be like. We do believe that this past year we met the needs of the community on all fronts, maybe starting with our paramedics and our public safety. We were the only department to have internal testing, COVID testing. So we would limit the risks to our paramedics, but also allow and minimize overtime so that we could manage those expenses as they were addressing and being exposed to the community as spread was pretty extensive at that time. And then obviously our health department, the contact tracing that we did to keep our community safe, the communication strategy that we did on mask wearing, all of the things. Then the schools, I'll continue with the town for a minute, and picking us up and getting us all virtual so we could have meetings and public input. We were also one of the first communities to do that. And then the schools, the pivoting to online learning, providing food, grab and go meals to many of our students that rely on lunch, on school food. We did all that. And we would not have been able to do those things if our budget had been inadequate. And we've done so many things. And you've seen the activities at the senior centers that have been online and the things that we've engaged with as well. Obviously the public safety, the protests that we had, our public safety has been right up front and responsive to the community and taking care of us. We've seen increases in car thefts in the region and actually the country. So that's a theme, and we've really remained on top of that as well. So lots of challenges, enormous amount of challenges, and I think what it shows is there are certain things that only government can do, and first and foremost is the health and safety of our community. So I will pause there.
Thank you, Mayor Cantor. Are there questions from commission members and guests?
Yes, this is Ellen Phillips. Sherry, do we know who is buying the Yukon property, and do we have any control over that?
Hi, Ellen. How are you? We do know that there is a purchaser on the property, but for $2.75 million, and Matt can speak to it a little bit more. They bought it with conditions as they are, so they will be investing significant money in cleanup. As you know, it was contaminated by PCBs. Which is caulking in the windows that seeps into the soil and makes it unusable until that's cleaned up on the west side of the property. The east side of the property actually is not contaminated. So that being said, Matt has been more in touch with the realtor. We don't have a lot of information yet, but we expect to have it soon. Matt?
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for the question. I'm sorry, was it from Ellen? Thank you. So to add what the mayor said, the prospective buyer, their name has not been announced yet. But as I understand it, at least from the seller's representative, they are a very reputable developer, New England based, not Connecticut based. The town does not have the ability and any authority with respect to that purchase and sale agreement. They do need, the new owner would need to honor any lease we have in place for the ball fields, but we do not have the ability to approve the sale. The town, however, will have significant authority, if I can use that term, or discretion with respect to on the land use side. So, for example, if the new owner proposes to do something different from what present zoning allows, and I would imagine that they would want to do something a little bit more intense in order to realize a return, the town is going to need to approve that change in the zoning. You know, that will come through staff, through the TP, Town Plan and Zoning Commission, and ultimately the town council. So we will have a fair amount of discretion there. I think they're going through a little bit of a due diligence period, although as the mayor said, they're purchasing the property with very few conditions. And hopefully they'll be identified soon, and we can meet with them to talk about their plans.
Thank you. Are there other questions? Beth? Or let's go to Rebecca first, since she's a commission member. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I know I'm not super familiar, but I thought that the properties were doing a reassessment, like a 2021 reassessment. And my concern is that we just raised this mill rate, and next year, because of the hot sales of the properties and everything selling above asking price, all of a sudden there's going to be this huge jump and people's property taxes next year or the year after as part of this reassessment. Are y'all going to take into consideration that there's like a temporary bump in the market when y'all are doing reassessments, or how it's that? I thought it was based on market sales, and I'm concerned that there's going to be a big jump in property taxes.
Thank you, Rebecca. The revaluation is a state mandated every 5 years. It used to be 10 years actually, and it did go to 5 years. And it is, you know, again, a state mandate. And it is a snapshot in time of property values in October. And this is very it's very scientific, actually, the way property values are assigned, and there is a process to appeal and to challenge those assessments. But the town will be going through that and for the October grand list. And we're using the grand list from October 20. we will be using, our reval is for 21. And we do expect the grand list to go up. But what happens when the grand list goes up, the budget stays the same, the mill rate goes down. So when Matt was talking about that grand list growth of 1% in 4 years and about 0.5% sort of where we've been, kind of, those are non-reval years. The reval years tend to have bigger grand list growth and a decrease in the mill rate. So every property is impacted differently depending on where it is, if you've done things to your house, obviously, and the size of the homes. Bigger homes had been on the decline, and now they're increasing. So it's this. I feel like it's a tank of water that you shake a little bit and it shifts. The total amount doesn't shift necessarily, but how things are distributed. So there's multiple elements to it. There is an overall impact, and we do expect, what we're hearing is, 5 to 8% from realtors. Now, some properties are going up 17 to 20%. So there are properties that will be impacted differently. But again, the expectation is the budget will remain whatever it is we set it at. It won't be this. It will be lower than this, but it will be something. And that will freeze, and then that mill rate will be set lower going into the next budget year. And then there will be a whole budget and all the considerations on that. So that grand list will be again set in October. Matt, I don't know if you want to help to clarify that. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, just to add to the mayor's comments. So Rebecca, we are in revaluation. And again, as the mayor explained, every 5 years, this would be for the list to be published for October 1st of 2021. And that will impact the budget for the following year, for the one beginning on July 1st of 2022, or FY23. So not the budget we're talking about now, but the one for the following year. And we do utilize what's called a mass appraisal process. It's a little bit different than pricing an individual home. And that is where the assessor will look at a group of comps, comparable properties over an extended period, not just a very short window, but a more extended period of time. But as the mayor said, we do see shifts occasionally. Sometimes a shift will go from residential to commercial properties, sometimes the reverse. And sometimes you see shifts between different classes of residential properties. For example, sometimes newer homes may be more highly valued. Here in West Hartford, maybe homes closer to the center. Those types of shifts do occur, but that would impact the budget for fiscal year 2023.
Thank you. Any other commission members have a question right now? Okay, I know that Beth Rocco, who's a guest, would like to ask something.
Hi, my name is Beth Rocco. I'm a senior in town. I've lived here about 8 years. And when I first heard from the Weehaw News Blast that there was a vote for $3 million to purchase St. Brigid's School and to redevelop the Elmwood property, because I'm a 4-year volunteer at the Bishop's Corner Senior Center, I said, well, how can I find out more information about this? Well, the Hartford Courant did a very small article about the purchase, and it hasn't been mentioned since. The first person I called was Gina Marino because I'm one of her volunteers, and I was more or less shocked to find out that Gina didn't know anything more about it. I wrote to one of the town council members, Mary Fay, who voted against the purchase, and she just felt that due diligence hadn't been done. Past 3 weeks, I have felt that I have done due diligence and had a wealth of information to present, but time does not allow that. I've been to the new Bloomfield Senior Center, the Avon Senior Center, and I speak today not for myself. I'm a young senior, I'm 68, I'm a retired physician. I help at St. Peter Claver. I help to resettle refugees in town. But I want to emphasize that the senior centers here are a lifeline for whom I'm going to call the frail elderly. 2 years ago, I wrote a letter when the library and the services budgets were cut. And I said, you're attacking the very wrong people, the impoverished and the elderly who rely on these services. Budget in Bloomfield, which is a population of 21,000 compared to our 63,000, they have a $1.2 million senior budget and a brand new facility 2 years ago. We have Elmwood with seniors on the second floor. As a retired physician, I am concerned in an emergency as to how to get out possibly 50 or 60 people from the second floor. So I drove over to St. Brigid's, and I do know it's appraised from looking at the tax assessor's website. I know everybody in town thinks it's very easy to get all this information, but for a newbie to go and read the 193 pages of the capital improvement program, as well as to poke around on the tax assessor's website, and it's made to learn that I really couldn't get on the mapping, but I figured out by going to Google Earth how to view these properties from above. St. Brigid's is a smaller building than Elmwood. I do not understand how the library could possibly also be put in that building. And because of my safety concerns, I don't want to see the seniors on the second floor. That doesn't mean that this can't be done. Say that we've purchased for $3 million, a property appraised at $7 million. Well, that sounds great, and you can advertise that. But New Britain just stated this morning that to demolish their Catholic high school will cost $1 million just to demolish it. I also think $3 million in the budget to reformulate somehow in the second year, St. Brigid's. I just don't space-wise understand what architect or developer you're talking to that could possibly make this happen. Our school budget.
Beth, may I interrupt you at this point? I think it would be appropriate to hear from Matt and Sherry exactly what the plans are, and then perhaps they could answer some questions. Is that okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to give a lot of this to Matt, but I'm just going to do a quick little overview of St. Brigid, and Matt can speak to the details of the timeline, and we are really in the very, very beginning phases of this, and so there's really not a lot to communicate now. What the council approved was the authorization for the due diligence period to figure out whether the town should buy the property. And all the seller, actually the Archdiocese, was asking was for a very small down payment to make that happen. And I can't remember exactly what that was, $10,000, or it was a very small amount of money. To prevent it from being sold to someone else, a private developer, because it is a very attractive parcel, not necessarily the building as it is, but the parcel. It backs up to our largest park in town. So it's municipal owned land, which allows, if the municipality owns this parcel as well, it allows us a lot of flexibility with programming, and whatever we decide that building to be down the road. But right now, it's an old school, as is Elmwood. And as you guys know well, Elmwood is not set up for flexible programming. It's got long hallways and small rooms, and it's just, the rental opportunities are small. It just doesn't serve our needs. And so when this parcel came up and this project potentially, is a possibility, we felt we needed to step in and look at that. So, and repurposing, I mean, we know that the $3 million to purchase, as you said, Beth, you're very resourceful. The appraisals are higher, but we do expect that if we are really going to envision a multicultural center, senior center, community center, library, whatever we decide that parcel to be, or that facility or project to be, we'll need a lot of work and planning and fundraising and hopefully partners. They may be private partners. So I'm just saying that there's not been that next step, and we expect there will be a lot of community input also into getting us to that next step.
My problem with the whole thing is that I quote both from the capital improvement program as well as the Hartford Current article, quote, "The Elmwood Community Center does not meet the needs for youth planning," and I'm underlining youth. And I asked to be put on the line budget, on the agenda today, because I don't feel that the seniors have a forum. Most of them don't Zoom, the ones that we see, the frail elderly at our centers. And I do think as this goes forward, I know both you, Mayor, and the town planner were very disappointed that people didn't show up for the town budget meeting. I don't know if it was last week or when it was, but we're operating in a void. This information needs to get out to seniors. Our school budget is dropping by 1,000 students. I don't see the school budget dropping as we go over the
Beth,
years.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I hear your concerns, but Matt has just let me know that he has to leave this WebEx no later than 11:15. So I would appreciate it if you would let him discuss more about the plans for this.
Thank you, Amy. And Beth, I appreciate the concerns, and thank you, Mayor. To add to the Mayor's comments, very excited about the potential here. We see this as a long-term project for the town. And most likely, we would be talking about a new facility, not moving everything we're doing now into a smaller, older building. So, we're excited about the potential of the St. Brigid site, not the existing building, but the site. The site as a location where we could consolidate a number of things into a newer facility that's better designed to meet our program and service demands, and that should be less costly to maintain in the future. So we're hoping we could locate a new community center there, a new senior center there, a new teen center, perhaps a cultural element, and perhaps even the library branch. That over a period of years, we could design a project and line up the funding to build a new facility where we could consolidate all of those uses in one location that is better designed for our present needs and for our future needs. Now, when you talk about youth programming, there's certainly a significant interest in locating a teen center there. If you're familiar with our existing teen center at Elmwood, 1 or 2 rooms at the lower level, it's hard to say that meets the needs of a town of 65,000 people. Now, for the senior center, we share those concerns as well, presently located on the 2nd floor. Could, you move into a newer, more attractive, more energy facility here at St. Brigid? As the mayor talked about, we think the location is ideal. It's located right next to Beachland Park. We have looked at upgrading Elmwood, but the existing Elmwood site is very constrained, primarily by topography, and it's not immediately adjacent to the park. So that's why we're so excited about this. We are in the due diligence period, as the mayor said. They're inspecting the building actually today to take a look at its needs. And then, we'll be coming back to the council with our recommendations later this summer. But assuming this moves forward and assuming the town does decide to buy it for $3 million, this is going to be, again, a multi-year project. We're going to take the time we need to look at it thoroughly, develop a new facility, and if at the end of the day, this all works out, we'll be able to redevelop the existing Elmwood property and the existing Faxon Library for some exciting new uses that could probably add to our grand list. So again, this is going to play out over a period of years. We're going to want to involve you in the process. We're going to want your opinion, whether it relates to program, design, etc. This is not something that is going to happen quickly and where we're just going to move everybody into a smaller, older facility.
Sherry, you have a final comment?
Yeah, I do want to say that there is going to be a lot of input, and I have a 92-year-old mother that Gina knows very well, who is frail, and volunteers. I mean, she's hardy, but she's frail, and the senior center has been a lifeline for her. I understand it from the bottom of my heart how important the senior center is, and I do believe it's inadequate. The youth center is inadequate also. But yes, the senior center is inadequate and we want to improve it. We want a state-of-the-art senior center. And so, yes, we will be considering and get input from, but again, it's not going to be done tomorrow. And there is very little right now the community can say, because we don't know if we're purchasing the property yet, because we're just figuring out if, if the purchase price is right, are there hidden costs that we don't expect? So the due diligence is happening right now. That's all I can say.
I thank you all very much. I thank Beth for her concern and interest. And certainly from the point of view of the commission as a whole, we will be revisiting this frequently so we can hear what's going on and so that we feel comfortable in providing input to the town council. Thank you both very much. Thank you, Beth. Are there other final questions? We have a couple of minutes on the budget from anybody. I actually have one myself. Will there be any effect on the budget from the states wanting to do away with the motor vehicle tax?
That is a great question. That's a great question. We are keeping an eye on it. I know that Matt is active with CCM because this is something that's been raised before. Matt, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think we have about $15 million of revenue. I think it's a little higher, but I think it's closer to $18 million of revenue in our budget from our motor vehicle property taxes. If that changes, it's going to shift those revenues. We're either going to have to cut something very big, or we've got to shift that revenue. So there's talk about maybe changing the assessment percentage. Right now, we assessed properties at 70% of their market or of their appraised values. Should that be 75%? That's going to change, again, individual properties depending on their assessment. So we are keeping a close eye on that. It will have a significant impact in West Hartford. Matt, do you want to add anything to that?
Thank you, Mayor. That's a good explanation. So certainly if the state eliminates the motor vehicle tax, there'll be a shift on the real estate side. And one of the ideas that's being considered is that they would increase that 70% to some higher figure. some of the policy arguments behind that is people with more highly valued homes would be paying more, if their assessment was set at somewhere between 80 to 100%. But anyhow, we're going to have to find the money somewhere. Personally, I'm always concerned about limiting the number of options that we have. I think as I talked about in the beginning, we have too few to begin with. We are one of the most reliant, if not the most reliant, property tax state in the nation. And I'm just concerned about exacerbating that. I understand the inequities between paying a much higher property tax bill on a car, the same type of car in New Britain or Greenwich. I think there are ways to address that, maybe with a more uniform approach, but I am concerned about eliminating it altogether and how it could impact homeowners.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Sherry or Matt at this time? We thank you so much for being with us this morning. I know that you would welcome input from the council, from individuals, from guests at any point in time. They certainly can email you, they can phone, they can attend the hearings, which I hope we will see an updated schedule of shortly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great to see you all. Take care.
Yes, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. We're going to continue with our agenda. Kevin, if you're still with us.
I am. Hi, good morning.
There you are, yes. Good morning.
We have a number of things that I can report this morning. As I mentioned last month, the preponderance of our
Oops, you're frozen again. I think it's a bandwidth problem at your end. Kevin, we can't hear you at all. Let's pause on Kevin till we get him back and move on to Gina for a senior centers report. Thank you.
Good morning, all. I wanted to give you an update on what's going on. The vaccine hotline, as you all probably are aware of, the library is taking the initial calls, and anything that has a difficulty, a situation that needs more hand-holding or more help is being done by 2 part-time staff members of the senior centers. I checked in with them, and although the volume of calls has lessened, the concerns or the difficulties are a little more complicated. So it's been taking quite a bit of time to help people through it. Anytime there's a new age group, the phones are flooded. So it's starting to calm down now, but we anticipate that once the children are involved, 12 and up, that the phone calls will again become busy. We just finished our AARP income tax program. It's done by volunteers. This year, we modified the program, so seniors came to the center in their vehicles. A volunteer went out, grabbed their documents, scanned them, and returned them. We were able to accommodate almost 300 people. Typically, in a season, we probably, between the 2 senior centers, would be closer to 500 people, but we were able to provide that service. We have a new employee that started, Susan Sloan. As Matt had said, most of our staff was let go right after the pandemic hit, and we're slowly trying to build it back up. I may be talking to Sheila because we're in the same situation where we pay very little, but we want a lot. So I'll be contacting you, Sheila, with a job description because we will need more help here at the senior centers. We started our spring classes this week and last week. And what's been different, they're all virtual with the exception of one line dance program, which is outside in Nature's Classroom at Westmore Park. And we have 13 seniors registered. And so far it's been wonderful. But spring is the first time we're asking people to register and to actually pay a small fee for the programs. Everything has been totally free through this pandemic. So we are now trying to get people back into the swing of things. And we've been renewing memberships and people have been signing up for programs. So it's going rather smoothly. We do anticipate opening our fitness centers on May 3rd. It's a shorter day with only 4 people coming at a time, 45-minute appointments, and the members will get 2 times per week. So we have a few spaces left, but it's been filling up rather quickly. Of course, people are concerned they want to work out more than 45 minutes, and they also want to work out more than twice a week. But it's a good start, and we'll see how things open up in the state and if we can accommodate more people. We have been doing pop-up tent events, which are very exciting. Through a CARES Act grant, both senior centers applied for funds that are paying for the rental of the tents at both facilities. And we've done several, it started last week here in West Hartford, and then we added Elmwood this week. And we've done a watercolor class, a Tai Chi class, knitters have come in. We started a complimentary coffee where a volunteer is serving coffee. Starting slow, but people are coming. And the good thing is I've been able to talk to a lot of seniors that are coming, and some are still hesitant to come back into the building. So they're finding the tent is a nice alternative. We're getting ready to plan our summer cycle, and we are going to do a hybrid model. We will keep many of our programs virtual that are working, and then we're also going to bring in a few programs. Limited the amount of people, social distancing, and masks for the summer. So a handful will be actually in the building. So beginning of May, fitness center, summertime, we'll have some of our classes indoors. We've had one of the things that's going on right now is there's a blood pressure screening over at Elmwood with St. Joe's nursing students. And they've been able to do some virtual programs for us, a fall prevention, and they're also going to be doing a brain health program next week. So we're working with them. Our grab and goes have been extremely popular. The most popular was just a few weeks ago. We worked with Harry's over here at Bishop's Corner and with Care Partners of Connecticut, and we had over 95 people do a drive-by, pick up their own pizza. It was in a cellophane, pre-wrapped, half-baked. So they had a container of sauce, a container of cheese, and directions on how to cook the pizza. So people were very happy with that. We have a very generous business community, and that's how we're able to offer all these programs free. It was paid for by a sponsor, so it worked out really well. One of the big things we have going on right now is Earth Day is on Thursday. It is not going to rain, but it's going to be very cold. So I'm hoping people will come. They'll just bundle up. We're starting off at Beachland Park. We have Westmore Park there, and they're doing a scavenger hunt as well as bee pollinator kits. Everyone will get one. We also have Catherine from the recycling program in town will be there and do a little demonstration. We're hoping people will take the Trout Brook Trail back to Elmwood, and we'll have some entertainment there and goodie bags for everyone. And then the mayor will read a proclamation for Earth Day, and we're planting a tree in honor of Earth Day. So it should be a lovely event. If you'd like to come, just let me know, give a call so that we have enough goodie bags for everyone. And wear gloves and a hat probably, because I think it's going to be very cold. Our constant contact list continues to grow. I believe we have over 1,600 people signed up for it. And we've been sending out a Monday morning email and a Friday morning email. And in the last email, there was information on funeral assistance from FEMA. So if someone has died from COVID, FEMA is offering financial assistance to the families that have paid. I think it's up to $9,000 if I read it correctly. So if you need information, let me know. I can forward it to you, but it should help people who have been lost a loved one through because of COVID. We are also doing a pickleball program at Wilcott in May. Pre-registration, and we already are sold out with 20 seniors signed up for it on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. We may increase it to Monday and Wednesdays if there is a need. But right now we're starting slow, and that'll start in May. We also are doing an outdoor concert at Atria Hamilton Heights on Cinco de Mayo, which is May 5th. 1 o'clock. It'll be live streamed as our former concerts have been. This will be a little different because we will be allowing a limited amount of people to call and register, and they can stay in their cars or on the lawn. We haven't announced the registration for people to attend yet. It's being finalized, but it'll come out in the Constant Contact on Friday. So if you're looking to attend this, keep your eyes open for that, but it'll be a limited amount of people. We have a Ken program tomorrow. Sophie Cudler, who's a very active senior, young senior, high school senior in town, she developed a book on Ken herself, and she's going to be giving us a virtual lesson on how to play it. We have 45 people signed up to pick up the grab and go kits tomorrow. So hopefully they'll all learn it. It's supposed to be very good for your brain. I've never used the game, but it's similar to Sudoku. So we still are taking reservations if anyone is interested in that.
Gina, I have a question, if I may. Is there any word on when the senior centers may open completely? Because I know people from the commission are getting anxious to come back and meet in person, finding WebEx kind of difficult.
Yes. Well, we did get permission for the fitness centers the beginning of May. So as long as if you're interested in coming back in person, we can reach out to the operations committee in town and make sure that's okay. I would think you may want to stay virtual in May. We have a meeting in June, correct?
We have a meeting in June and then not again till September. So
I think we would most likely be able to do June. The community center does have camps, several camps going on during the summertime. With the pandemic, it seems that parents have signed up all of their kids for as many programs as possible this summer. So all the camps across leisure services are seeing extreme high levels of registration, which has been phenomenal. At Elmwood Community Center, that means that space is limited for the seniors due to the fact that the camps are going to be there.
Let me ask you a question. If we can't meet at Elmwood in June, could we meet at the West Hartford Senior Center?
Yes, we could. Let me just look at that day. Yeah.
And actually parking is a hell of a lot better there.
Yeah, it would. Yeah. Yes, we definitely could. I don't see a problem as long as you still would need to wear a mask indoors, and we would set the tables up as we do now, 6 feet apart. We have brought in, it was a rainy day last Wednesday when we had our watercolor workshop. So we did bring the seniors in and spread out the card tables, and we did have people in the building doing the watercolor, and it worked out fine. We temperature check you before you come in. So
we'll talk about that. Right now, I think we'll stay on WebEx for May and consider being together in June, which would be a nice way to end this first part of the year.
Would be.
Are there questions for Gina?
Hi, Gina. This is Noreen.
Lots of great programs, Gina.
Hi, Gina. This is Noreen Backteller.
Hi, Noreen.
Hi. I didn't hear what you mentioned. You have a new staff person, Elizabeth, and I'm sorry if I missed it. I'm not sure if I heard if she's full or part-time and what's she doing. And also, is there any discussion about refilling the the senior center position down the road for Elmwood, or is that, what are you looking at for that?
That position, the full-time position in Elmwood, actually, the applications closed yesterday. So we're planning to fill that position as soon as we can. And that would be a full-time rec specialist position. I would still oversee both senior centers, but there would be a full-timer there. The person I just hired is a part-timer, and her name is Susan Sloan.
Right.
We only have one full-time person at each senior center, and the rest is supplemented by part-time staff.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Any other questions for Gina? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
exciting. Kevin, I'm sorry you got interrupted. Back to you, and hopefully it'll be more successful this time.
No
You're
problem.
on mute.
Obviously, I'm looking forward to meetings. Can you hear me? It
Yes.
doesn't say mute. You're okay? Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm looking forward to in-person meetings. The first thing I'd like to report is, as I did last month, that the preponderance of our riders and drivers have been fully vaccinated, and consequently, we're seeing much increased ride volumes. In March, we did double the rides we did in February, and now so far in April, we are at an increased pace over March. So more and more people are getting out to do more and more different things, not only medical appointments, which has been the rule, but all kinds of things. So we're excited to be able to help the community get around to do the things they need to do. The second thing I'd like to report is that we're also excited by the fact that we have already met our revenue goal for fiscal year 21. Just like the town, our fiscal year 21 ends on June 30th, and here in April, we've met our revenue goals, which is remarkable because our ride volumes are down 60% over pre-pandemic levels. In other words, we just did 40% of the rides this past year that we did the year before. And so therefore those ride fees are down by that much, but nonetheless, the community, our supporters, our donors have stepped up to replace and then go beyond replacing that shortfall in revenues from ride volume. So we're very excited about that and very thankful and grateful for our supporters. I want to emphasize once again that we do provide free rides for all eye care appointments. So as you know, people who are looking for rides and who are seniors, you can emphasize whatever their income levels that they can afford our eye care rides because those are free. Also, in West Hartford only, because of the support of the West Hartford Rotary Club, we provide free rides for low-income riders. So far, we've been able to help a dozen different individuals, and we've provided 238 rides under that program. We have 38% of our budget left from the West Hartford Rotary Club. We're talking with the Rotary Club about replenishing that budget, but we would like other supporters, and we're going to reach out to the Lions and the Kiwanis and others, because it's a great program to allow people who otherwise couldn't afford to get around, whether from us or frankly even from Dial-A-Ride. Some of the people we help just don't have many resources available to get around, and they need to get around. So we would encourage anyone who has ideas about people who would want to support low-income riders to get in touch with me, and we'll work something out. Also, I want to mention that we're always on the lookout for other providers of rides for seniors. And I just yesterday learned of another alternative called Sunshine Wheels. Sunshine Wheels is located in Unionville. They serve the disabled community, people in wheelchairs primarily, of any age, not just seniors. But they have a dozen vans fully equipped to help people with full wheelchairs. We're not able to do that. So they're a great partner for us because we can refer to them people we cannot help. And they largely serve that side of the mountain, Avon, Farmington, Canton, and so on. But they're starting to work in this area, in West Hartford and Hartford. So just be aware that Sunshine Wheels is out there, and they're a great alternative for people who need wheelchair lifts and wheelchair vans. And the final thing I'll mention, as I did last month, is that we're continuing to look for partners who are houses of worship, especially in Hartford, who we can team with to help their community get to their services. So if anyone has any ideas in those areas, I'm all ears on that. That's all for today, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Kevin? That's really good news about the possible partnership with the Sunshine. Interesting.
Yeah, we'll be referring riders to each other. That's basically what it boils down to.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, we're coming to a close. We need to talk about future meetings. And the suggestions from last meeting were perhaps ask Amy Kraus to come back. She's the director of the health district, to have Derek Slapp with us, to have a discussion from the Housing Commission in West Hartford. We've talked about the Yukon property. Are there any other thoughts for future meetings? Yes. You're on mute. And that's Gail Crockett, right? Can't hear you. Not there yet.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm back. I just wanted to know if you thought it might be worthwhile to have somebody just basically talk to us about Juneteenth celebration that's coming up in West Hartford on June 19th.
I couldn't quite get the question.
The question is, the town of West Hartford will be celebrating Juneteenth this year. The mayor and council proclaimed it an annual holiday. So I was wondering if you thought it might be worthwhile to have someone briefly come to the meeting to talk about the activities that are scheduled on that weekend. Very quickly, two very significant things also are happening. Unity Bookman Green, which is our town green, is going to be renamed Unity Green. And that effort was put forth by the members of the First Church, who remember years ago, Mr. Bookman was one of the biggest slaveholders in West Hartford. And so there has been a lot of discussion with various groups like Noah Webster, Wasco, Witness Zone Project, the town, about renaming that green so it reflects a more inclusive name of members in the community. At any rate, that was the question.
Very interesting. I just got a chat from Jen Evans, who is telling us that the Juneteenth ceremony is on June 19th on Unity Green. And I'd be very interested in having a contact so we could talk about, I can see Adrienne Billings Smith of the Human Rights Commission would be a great guest. And I will certainly talk to her about the possibility of coming and sharing with us in May. So we have info in advance. Thank you very much, Gail.
One other tag. On Sunday, that Sunday morning, First Church will be having a special dedication renaming piece of their program, which will culminate in them walking from the church over to the green to officially rename it. So that will be happening on Sunday morning in their church service.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very interesting. Any other suggestions for future meetings? If not, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So I make a motion to adjourn.
And is there a second? Noreen? Well, I guess I'm going to have
I
to second.
motion. No, I motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are
meeting.
adjourning at 11:37 a.m. Thank you, everybody, and I will see you
next
on
month.
WebEx in May.
Great meeting.
Great meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you.